Hi, I'm Dallas Brown, your host of Chopra-centered lifestyle conversations that matter. Today we're talking with Mallika Chopra, founder and CEO of Intent.com. Mallika learned about the power of intention at a young age from her father, Deepak Chopra. He taught his children to ask for love, hope, purpose, passion, inspiration, and so many other positive qualities in their lives every day. Starting every day with an intent proved to be an anchoring device that led to connection, happiness, and personal fulfillment in all of their lives. Mallika has written 2 books inspired by her children, 100 Promises to My Baby and 100 Questions from My Child. Her newest book, Living with Intent, is available everywhere on April 7th. Welcome, Mallika. It's great to have you with us today.
Thank you. So happy to talk to you.
Now, I have to tell you, I really enjoyed your new book. It's so practical and also very funny. Congratulations on completing it.
Thanks. I think my goal was to be very honest and authentic, so I'm glad. Hopefully it's relatable.
Yes, it really is. Now, in the book, you talk about the role intentional practices have played in your life and the way your dad brought those themes and practices into your childhood from a very young age. Can you describe how the idea of intention was present for you in your life from an early age and how that's been with you until now?
Yeah, so, I learned how to meditate when I was about 9 years old, and I always feel like it was one of the greatest gifts my parents gave to us. My brother got them and I. And my dad used to make us repeat a phrase after our meditation, and I think it comes from the Course in Miracles, which goes like this: I am responsible for what I see. I choose the feelings I experience and set the goals I will achieve. And everything that seems to happen to me, I ask for and receive as I have asked. And then he would ask us, what do you ask for? And we would ask for things like tickets to the Celtics or a trip to Hawaii. And he'd listen to us and then he'd say, okay, well, what about also asking for love, hope, inspiration, connection? So we were taught to ask for these qualities in our life on a daily basis. And for me, that really is kind of the seed of what intent is. It's asking these qualities for these qualities in our life that kind of feed our soul.
Now, many people learn about who you are and your family and probably make a lot of assumptions about you as a result. And you speak to that a little bit in the book. How are you different than what people might think?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think both my brother and I, we obviously grew up in this space of being surrounded by people who were on some sort of journey of self-discovery, often healing from something or inspired by something. And, for us, it was kind of my dad's work. It really had nothing to do with us. And we were pretty mainstream kids. And, again, that just wasn't our world. So I think people have often assumed that Gautam and I have some deeper insights or people often treat us as if, they ask us their health questions, and we're not obviously doctors, or share intimate details about their life because they kind of assume that we have the same mindset as my dad. And we really don't. But I do think for me, when I became pregnant and started my journey as a mother, was the first time I started asking myself questions like, who am I and what do I want and how can I serve my kids? And it was really at that time that I started really valuing the work that my dad does and kind of finding my own, path to that. Mine is so completely different from my father's because, I'm really coming from this, I think, much more from a feminine perspective and really driven kind of from the journey as a mother and dealing with very different things than my dad does. Like whenever I talk to my dad about how crazy my schedule is and how overwhelmed I am, he kind of is so confused because in our family life, my mom has done everything. So he just can't even relate to kind of that craziness.
Sure. I think so many families are like that, and I'm sure many women listening to you right now can definitely relate to that they're holding so much for their kids and for their households and for their families at large. And it sounds like your personal journey through motherhood was really a catalyst for you to do some deeper inquiry. And in the book, you describe dealing with stress and overscheduling and using sugar and caffeine to get through the day. And these are stories many of us can relate to, myself included. And in the book, you talk about a particular moment when you realized that you had to do this writing, to create a book as a way to work something out for yourself. Can you talk about that?
I was speaking at a conference because over the last years with intent.com and just generally I realized I enjoy speaking and sharing with people, and I've been teaching meditation more. But I was speaking at a conference and I was standing in front of a couple hundred people and talking to them about balance and intent. And, as I'm talking to them, I'm really not paying any attention to what my words, but instead was thinking, oh my God, I just had a chocolate chip cookie in my macchiato. So it's totally my body was feeling buzzed and I was feeling overweight and stressed, and I was spending the whole time in my head thinking about all the tasks I hadn't done during the day and realizing, I really wasn't being authentic with the audience whom I was speaking to. And so it was kind of this moment where I was basically used the meditation for them to just kind of escape from this craziness that was going on in my mind. And during that meditation with the group, realized I am so out of touch with myself right now and I need to do something. And for me, the opportunity to write the book and explore that was such a great journey to, really think about what I need in my life right now. And so that's really what the book helps chronicle.
Now, how do you think that your spiritual journey and what you talk about in the book and women's spiritual journeys and journeys for balance are different or unique than, the sort of more general teachings that we've all heard before?
So, I think, meaning how is my journey similar or women's journeys?
I think women's journeys. I think one of the things that strikes me so much about knowing you and your voice comes through so strongly in this book is that you really feel that you are, you're a soccer mom and taking the kids to school and doing all of this regular everyday stuff, and you've approached spirituality and balance from that perspective. Yeah, and
it's interesting because I think because there's all this expectation of my brother and I to do certain things. Part of this journey for me was even asking myself, do I even want to do that? Because I've seen my dad's life, which is, he's always on the road and he's, he touches so many people, but it takes, a real kind of dedication and work, which as a mom with two young daughters, I can't do. And so probably one of the most impactful conversations, actually two conversations that I had for the book, the first one was with Marianne Williamson. And when I went to talk to her and I said, I see my dad doing this life, and I'm you had a daughter. And she laughed and she said, tell me about it. Thank God for Rita, because she said, I could never, I made a promise to my daughter that I would never leave her for more than 2 nights. And, and she was a single mom. And she said, so that shaped my entire life and career was, what I had to find that balance with my daughter. And so she was and she also stressed never compromise on that, because that is so part of who you are, her knowing me. So that was one really great conversation. And the second was when I went and met Eckhart Tolle, and I kind of brought up this idea, sometimes I just feel like a soccer mom, and is that enough? And he really shared such a beautiful idea, which was around the frequency holders, and that it's really the people who are every day in their world doing extraordinary things, which may be just being there for your children. And that, those are the people that really sustain kind of that frequency in the world. And so for me, that was very empowering to feel like, you know what, that's enough. And I really don't need to do anything more. I have to be true and authentic to who I am right now. So in that process, I think I really started to embrace that role as a soccer mom as the right place for me to be right now.
I love that. And that must be not only empowering, but very freeing and relieving to just have permission to do what you feel like you need to do and what is your practice at this point in your life.
Yeah, it really was. And especially because I think that came to symbolize for me, like, after all this education and after all this opportunity and, you know, at the end of the day, this is what I'm doing. And, but it's really what I want to do right now. And so I think just giving myself the freedom to celebrate that was very liberating.
Great. Now, in your book, Living with Intent, you come up with a whole system that helps readers to approach the conversation of living with intent through an acronym.
Yep.
You want to describe that system a little bit?
Sure. So, you know, one thing I've learned from my father is when you do things through steps or acronyms, that helps kind of create a path. And so I spent, you know, over a few years actually thinking through this acronym as we were building intent.com and shared ideas with my dad and other people. So ultimately what we developed was around the word INTENT, around intent. I is for incubate, and incubate is really about connecting with yourself, finding that stillness that we do through meditation and other practices. N is for notice, which is noticing the messages that our body is sending us, noticing our internal dialogue, noticing the people, places, circumstances that come across us every day, you know, the idea of synchro destiny that my dad talks about. T is for trust, so really trusting our intuition and trusting that the universe will help take care of the details. E is for express, so expressing our intent, really taking a stand that this is important to us, and that's so much of what I've done with intent.com. N is for nurture, so nurturing ourselves, dealing with often the guilt that we have, for some people the shame that they have, nurturing the relationships in our life, and those networks of support that, you know, for me have been just so amazing. And then T is finally for take action. And, you know, that's one of the things I really share in the book and just in general is that intents are very different from goals. Goals really come from the mind and are task-oriented, but intents come from our soul and who we aspire to be. So by the time we, and, you know, it's not a linear journey, but, you know, when we do all this other work, taking action becomes so much more easier, and it's not like just kind of setting a New Year's resolution, which most people, you know, end up not following.
Right. Right. I love that. And I think what I loved most about the book is that it's so practical. It's almost more of a workbook than something that you just sit down and read. So just really recommend it to everyone listening. Living with Intent comes out everywhere April 7th. It'll be available at all the major retailers. And one other thing we're very excited about, Mallika, is having you at our Spiritual Solutions for Women workshop with Elizabeth Gilbert and your dad at the end of May. And how fitting that you're going to be addressing this whole group of women who are gathering to have just this conversation.
Yeah, I'm so thrilled and honored to be participating in that. In fact, it's the first time I think I'm doing something at the Chopra Center in a more formal capacity. And I do hope that, you know, I love that it's with kind of this weekend where we're celebrating women because I do think I relate to everyone and what they're doing. So sharing ideas will be great.
Wonderful. And let me ask you, the original intent that you had in writing your book, do you feel like you're getting closer to living in alignment with that?
I do, and you know, I think we talked about, like, the idea of kind of acceptance of where I am today in a joyful way, not just kind of, oh God, I'm stuck here, but really accepting the joy of my life right now. has been great. The other thing is, I don't think in the book there's not like any dramatic steps, like it's little shifts, and those little shifts have definitely made a difference for me. That being said, you know, I have definitely gone through a recent sugar binge, caffeine binge phase as I've been more stressed about, you know, getting the book out and things like that. So it's always a journey. I wouldn't claim to say that, you know, I found that I've stayed in that blissful state. I think it's always, but then it's always being able to go back and kind of reconnect and notice. And, you know, it's just it's a nice way to anchor myself moving forward.
You know, in writing this book and sharing it with your dad, do you feel like he got to know you better?
My dad, especially in the early days, was just like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" Like he kept thinking I'm totally nuts. Yeah, and it was so funny because he really could not relate at all to the stress I was dealing with. Whereas my mom was like, "I get it." That being said, of course, I'm so lucky that I get to tap into my dad for his ideas and thoughts, and I think he's started to get it a little bit. Of course, he's so incredibly supportive. And I think one of the things that hopefully he's proud of is that, you know, I really believe we have to be really authentic and truthful. And in that way, I have been in the book.
Mallika Chopra, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll see you in May at Spiritual Solutions.
I'm so excited. Thank you.
Mallika Chopra's new book, Living with Intent, is out April 7th and available for pre-order now. If you'd like to learn more about the Spiritual Solutions for Women workshop, happening May 28th through 31st at the Chopra Center for Wellbeing in Carlsbad, California, you can visit us online at chopra.com/spiritual solutions or call us at 760-494-1639. We look forward to seeing you there.